This doesn't light your firemen, the pilot lights out.
This football team is coming into our place. We're standing in our way.
This is a game of the heart. Focus and finish.
It's Thursday in week 8 of the NFL, and that means the viewer Twitter questions are beginning to overflow. So without further ado, let's get right to it, and I'll take a swing at a couple of these things. At Blue Whale 9 wants to know if he should try and trade Hakeem Nicks. Here's the thing with Nicks. Yesterday, Giants coach Tom Coughlin took a dig at him. He knocked him, saying that he needed to play better and be more reliable as he had been in the past. I'm thinking Nicks shows up to play this week in Philadelphia. Let's not also forget that Nicks is playing for a contract here. His dislocated finger problem is behind him. I expect him to have a stellar second half. At SCFan12 wants to know how I view Bucs rookie quarterback Mike Glennon. Alright, let's take a look at Glennon. He now has 3 starts under his belt. In his first start, he threw 1 touchdown and 2 picks. In his second, he threw 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. Last week, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Glennon's quarterback rating has progressed from 55.7 in Game 1 to 84.7 in Game 2 to 90.7 last week. Look for Glennon to continue to improve. He's averaging over 240 yards per game the first 3 weeks, and with the muscle hamster out and 2 worthy receivers in Vincent Jackson and Mike Williams to throw to, look for Glennon to air it out and try to make something happen. I look for Mike Glennon to be a valuable fantasy quarterback in the second half of this year. At Dude Foster wants to know if he should activate Steven Jackson and bench his handcuff, Jacquizz Rodgers. Well, Jackson will be back in the lineup this week against Arizona, but he's not the Atlanta back you want in fantasy. You want Jacquizz Rodgers, especially in PPR leagues. Without Julio Jones and Roddy White, Rodgers has carved out a nice little Darren Sproles-like role for the Falcons, and Matt Ryan has found himself another option. I'm not suggesting that I'll have more carries than Jackson, but I'll have more fantasy points. At Toddlerman wants to know if it's time to play Andy Dalton. Actually, believe it or not, Dalton is the player I received the most fantasy questions about this week. Wasn't even close. Last week he threw for 372 yards and 3 touchdowns, racking up 26 fantasy points. The week before, 337 yards, 3 TDs, racking up 24 fantasy points. But that was against the Bills and the Lions, who would give up 300 yards and 3 touchdowns to you or I if we were under center. Now, if you watched the game last week, you saw that A.J. Green had 6 catches for 155 yards. If Dalton hadn't missed him so many times, Green would have had 300 yards. Don't expect Andy Dalton to average 25 fantasy points every week. At Sweet Caroline 1 wants to know if I like Ryan Mathews in a PPR league. No, actually, Danny Woodhead kills his PPR value. Williams is averaging only 1 perception a game, and I think they come on shovel passes. At Boston S says, Montee Ball has been a complete flop. Should I just drop him? Alright, here's the thing with Ball. Like most rookies, Ball has a problem learning pass protection, which means that on clear passing downs, he can't be on the field. Unfortunately in Denver, it's always a passing down, so the guy can't get a sniff. And the few times he does get in, the other team knows it's a run and he's going to get the ball. But there's light at the end of the tunnel here. Ronnie Hillman's goal line fumble last week may have been the last straw with him, and Ball now has a chance to pass him on the depth chart. He still can't possibly play him until you start to see him getting the time and the touches. At Car Wash Guy wants to know what tight end I like better, Jared Cook or Jeff Cumberland. Cumberland. I think he's become somewhat of a security blank for Geno Smith, and he's shown that he can run after catch a bit too. But it's the catch part I'm concerned with him. But out of those 2 guys, Cumberland. With the quarterback situation in St. Louis, Cook is more useless than ever. At Lincoln66 wants to know what Chargers running back I like more, Danny Woodhead or Ryan Mathews. Didn't somebody just ask this? Who's vetting these things? I don't know, flip a coin. They have nearly identical points in standard fantasy leagues. I think Woodhead has 61 and Mathews something like 58. In standard leagues, I'd probably choose Mathews. In PPR, Woodcock. At USC Matic wants to know what I make of the fact that Vincent Jackson was targeted 22 times last week. That's a stupid question. What do you mean, what do I make of it? What the hell kind of question is that? I make that Mike Glennon likes to throw him the ball. Jackson totaled 48 fantasy points the past 2 weeks. Where's the confusion there? I don't get it. At I Am the Jesus says, that he had Brandon Whedon and wants to know if he should play Jason Campbell this week. All right, let's clear something up here. Based solely on your question, you are clearly not the Jesus. But you do need the Roto Experts Premium Package. And we're going to cut off the questions here as these are starting to go into the toilet. So if you have a question you want answered, hit me up with a tweet. And if I don't use your question on the program, I'll tweet you back with my best advice. And be sure to tune in to the Roto Experts Fantasy Football News Notes and Analysis segment every weekday. I'll be here to keep you current and ahead of the competition. And on weekends, come back for This Week in Fantasy Football as I team up with the King, Scott Engel, covering the week that was, the week that will be, answering your viewer questions. It is the Panthers and the Bucks tonight, which I'm hoping resembles a football game, unlike what we saw Monday night. Tonight, you've got the World Series to switch over to, though, so at least they can't hold us hostage if it's a stinker. Enjoy the sports night, everyone. For Roto Experts, I'm Mike Cardano.